Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm really sorry for the lack of videos recently. I had a day off on Saturday when I went to the match with my brother, and also I've been really busy with work, so unfortunately not had the time with the sheer amount of fixtures to keep up with the amount of videos I should have made. So I've skipped a couple, but I'm back to look ahead to Newcastle United's Carabao Cup quarter-final against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge tomorrow evening. It's currently about 3:30, 4 o'clock. As I record this, we've heard both from Eddie Howe and Mauricio Pochettino ahead of this game at their press conferences earlier today. Newcastle needed that victory against Fulham on Saturday, and it was a very good performance. I think that they ground the game out. They didn't overpower Fulham. They didn't get up to speed early on like they have done in recent weeks in certain home games. They had to wait to break Fulham down after a red card for Raul Jimenez. I thought it was ridiculous that he even attempted that, and to hear Marco Silva saying after the game that he thought the referee got it wrong was quite ridiculous, to be honest. I think that's such a bizarre decision. Newcastle had probed a couple of times. I think Anthony Gordon had hit the bar by then. Sean Longstaff had missed a chance from a few yards out. And then the second half, they stepped it up. They found more rhythm. Bruno Guimaraes was absolutely fantastic. It was his best game for a long time, I think. And of course, Louis Miley took the headlines. We after the game against AC Milan, we spoke to a couple of the players. Spoke to Dan Burn, spoke to Jamal Lascelles, and spoke to Joe Linton. Joe Linton obviously now a doubt for this game because of a hamstring injury picked up on Saturday. But the level of understanding, and I've also spoke to Kieran Trippier and Nick Pope about Louis Miley. I'm hoping to do a bit of a piece on him. Nobody's surprised by what's happened, and nobody's surprised by the fact that he's now gone on to score his first goal, Newcastle's youngest goal scorer of all time, which is quite incredible. But the thing to think about is that, and thing to consider with him, is that he just takes everything in his stride. I've mentioned that before, and the way he performs, you wouldn't think he's 17. He's got such a calm persona. He's just not fazed by anything. And I think if you read the interview with him in the programme before the game, done by brilliant Tom Easterby, I think you get to understand just the kind of mindset that he has and the ability to put aside the sort of nerves of that big game. And think about the teams he's played against: Chelsea, Manchester United, PSG, AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund. Those games and that sort of occasion is going to be difficult for anybody to process, let alone the very young player that he is. So yeah, I mean, for Louis Miley to score that goal and sort of, he's solidifying everything that he's doing as not just a flash in the pan. I think everyone in Newcastle understands that, but I think now outside, externally, people are starting to take notice, and who knows what the ceiling for this kid is. I mean, Kieran Trippier said to me that he could go right to the very top, and who's to say that that's not the case. But looking ahead to Chelsea on Tuesday, I think the fact that Newcastle got that result kind of says a lot about the confidence that they'll have going into this game. Obviously, a couple more injuries picked up with Fabian Schär and Joe Linton, as I alluded to earlier. The fact that that Sven Botman's come back, and obviously Longstaff's back, and Wilson started, suggested that it was all getting a little bit. All the injury problems were easing, but then a couple more go down, and Isak was out of the squad with a reoccurrence of his groin injury. Slight, not too serious, but is unlikely to make this game against Chelsea. So it could be that Wilson starts again and has to play most of the game again, because the other option that Eddie Howe has was a doubt in Anthony Gordon. I think you find that most players now are going to have to push through this at play at 60 or 70% capacity, because the sheer numbers that Newcastle have just aren't there to deal with the demand of the fixtures. And this is another huge game, another game which has such an aura about it, such a meaningful game in terms of what it could result in getting a step closer than just two games. It's another semi-final, 2 games from Wembley again, and another opportunity for a first trophy in over 50 years. So it's an absolutely huge occasion. And Eddie Howe is dealing with injuries again. We've still got no Harvey Barnes. That'll be 4 or 5 weeks, and there's a chance that Sven Botman, will he be thrown in at centre back with no Schär? So players aren't getting the the development back into fitness that they need. And I think that, you know, we've spoken about Kieran Trippier as well. Eddie Howe said this morning that Trippier was fit again, but whether he would play is up for debate, because whether he's, you know, in terms of whether he's ready, I think everyone's known that he's needed a bit of a rest, and it was great that Tino Livramento started the game at right back. Obviously went to left back when Emil Kraft came on Saturday, but did so well in that game. It was great that he showed why he was bought, which was to step in for Trippier when needed, and the fact that he did that so well was really good. There is confirmation that Lewis Hall is available for this game. Whether he starts, obviously that's becoming a bigger and bigger debate about Lewis Hall, and a bigger talking point than I think anybody would really like it to be, because of the way Eddie Howe answered that question. I thought it was all blown out of proportion the way he answered that question on Friday. Yes, he has obligations to meet before that obligation to buy is confirmed, but I think everybody expects him to be a Newcastle player next season, and the fact that he's available and Chelsea have let him play in this game kind of says, to me at least, that they've cut ties with him and that he will be at St James's Park next season. And I think there has to be a little bit of leeway given to him, a little bit of slack, because, you know, he's not as far on in his development as Tino Livramento, and the fact that they've both been brought in, having started at Chelsea, they're both fullbacks, they're both young players who have a big future. I think they've kind of been put in the same boat, and that's not really fair, because Livramento's had a couple more years of Premier League experience. Lewis Hall only played 12 games last season, and he's only 19. So these things take time. Whether he plays at Stamford Bridge tomorrow remains to be seen, but he is available. I don't think Kieran Trippier will play. I think this is a good opportunity for that to happen. Whether it's Kraft or Hall, or maybe even Dan Burn. Burn I spoke to on Wednesday, and he admitted that his injury is he's not really fully fit yet. He could have done better he could have done to have those weeks extra fitness to help get back to his best, but needs must. And he obviously played and scored on Saturday and looked very good in that game at both left back and centre half. I think Newcastle are in a better shape than they were this time last week, and the fact that they've won and got confidence, and I think it is a really good thing. Obviously they've beaten Chelsea in recent weeks 4-1 at St James's Park. This will be a slightly tougher game, but I think it was only Chelsea's third victory at Stamford Bridge in I don't know how many games on Saturday against Sheffield United, so they're not particularly confident at home. Newcastle obviously have had issues away from home, but you would think that they'll be confident going into this game. I think Eddie Howe sort of rightly mentioned before the game that Newcastle have shown this season that they can raise themselves for the big draws and the big occasions, and that's what they've had to do, because there's been no real respite when it comes to the cup draws, and this is a real opportunity, as I mentioned, to get back to Wembley, and a real opportunity to put right what went wrong at Wembley last February. I think that Eddie Howe won't be thinking about that. Eddie Howe will be thinking just about get this game and then obviously onto the semi-final. But with Port Vale, Middlesbrough, Fulham, Everton, West Ham and Liverpool left, there's not too many teams that you would particularly fear if they can get through this game and think that they couldn't beat. So I think that it'll be this is becoming a big game for Newcastle. This is such a huge opportunity that they have to take. And obviously also Eddie Howe's 100th game. He said this morning that it's flown by, and it certainly has. But that just shows how quickly everything's developed. I mean, in his first game, it was a 3-3 draw against Brentford. Obviously, he wasn't there because of COVID, and it was a must-win game at the time. Newcastle were really struggling. Obviously, he didn't win a game until a month after he'd come in against Burnley, and then from then, nobody's really looked back. So it shows how good his development's been. It shows how important he's been into Newcastle's development in his own image. And yeah, I think he'd love to mark it with a victory and another semi-final and another opportunity to get one step closer to Wembley. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. I'll be back to preview Luton, but I will be taking a little bit of a break. I'm not sure I'll keep up with all the videos needed across Christmas, but I'll see about that later. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.